robots or anime. Show me how they like to play. Took me to the movie theater. This is what they had to say.
I can't remember if I cried or if I laughed. I just remember I want my money back. I can't remember if it sucked or if I had a blast. All I know is at the end of the show, when the credits rolled, it said Filmtopiacast 3000.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Filmtopiacast 3000. I am your host, Greg McIver, and with me, as always, is...
Nicky Boom Boom.
Nicky Boom Boom. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the film Looper. It's a movie Nick and I both saw recently, and we're going to let you know what we thought about it. But first, before we get into that, I do believe we have an obligation. We have some Reddit in our ledger that we have to clear up, I'm afraid.
So this is the thing. On the last episode, we talked about Judge Dredd and how much we liked it.
Yep.
We did both like it very much. I thought it was a pretty kick-ass action movie.
Mm-hmm.
We did also talk about the striking similarities in plot to an Indonesian action movie which I thoroughly enjoyed called The Raid: Redemption. And I kind of implied that, well, maybe they saw The Raid and copied the script.
Well, you're not the only one to imply that.
I'm not the only one to imply it, and there's good reason for that.
Right.
But, since then, somebody did comment on the YouTube channel that this would be impossible, and there are other people that have said this too, that logistically it just doesn't work. That the script for the Peachtree script, which you can Google, was posted in, I believe, either the spring or summer of 2010, and that The Raid did not even start shooting until 2011. So what I want to say here is I want to issue an apology, but not quite a retraction. And bear with me for a second here, because this is the thing. Okay, and I saw an interview with the screenwriter of Dredd, who's also the man who he's a British sci-fi novelist who also penned 28 Days Later, and a sci-fi movie called Sunshine. And he was very upset about the comparisons drawn, and the implication that he was a thief, as you would be.
Yeah.
My thing is this. So, apologies to that man, whose name I should have in front of me. Is kind of unprofessional.
My God, man.
I know. But this is the thing. I'm still saying something is up. I don't know which side it's on.
Right.
I mean, his thing in the interview was like, well, it used to be that they'd come out with 5 Vietnam movies in a row that all have the same plot, like Platoon and Hamburger Hill, and nobody batted an eye at that.
But with this movie, though, there are specific moments, and it's almost, an exact, replication, so... shenanigans are happening, there's shenanigans going on.
I'm just calling shenanigans. I don't know what side it's on.
Exactly.
It's possible that the guys from The Raid saw the Peachtree script and went, ooh, that'd make a good movie.
Right.
Or, as somebody's pointed out online, it's possible that the guy that is producing all these Indonesian action movies, I believe his name is Gareth or Gavin. I don't know his name either. But anyway.
My God, man!
Super unprofessional. He is from the UK.
Wales, right?
I believe he's from Wales. I believe he's Welsh. There was the suggestion of like, oh, well, maybe he just read that Judge Dredd comic book back in the day, and, the idea was, bouncing around his head, and it came out as this script. But then I've been poking around online going like, all right, which Dredd comic book was that? And I'm not sure it's any.
Right.
I feel like this was an original storyline written for the Dredd movie. And there's also the fact that before The Raid got made, they made kind of like a pilot trailer, like a treatment trailer almost. I don't know what the exact term would be for a feature film when you make it was a short film that they made of The Raid. They made that well beforehand, so it's possible that somebody involved in Dredd saw that. I don't want to point any specific fingers. I'm just saying something's up.
Again, yeah, we apologize in our last episode that we said that, Dredd specifically ripped off the Raid Redemption. That was wrong of us to immediately, point the finger. We're not pointing fingers anymore. We are saying there is something fishy going on.
Some shenanigans.
But, neither one of us have enough information to really, say with certainty who is the responsible party for the fishiness and the shenanigans going on. Fishy shenanigans, that's what's happening here.
Because this is the thing. It's not like there are a million action movies with this premise. I can only think of two that kind of closely resemble this. One of them is Game of Death, which was made a very long time ago, and is only one man really battling up through. He's battling up levels.
Well, you've got a vertical theme going on.
You have the vertical, defeat all the criminals theme, but it's not like gunfights, and it's not like a bunch of guys. He has to fight, I think, 5 or 10.
Right, we don't even really know the story of Game of Death anyway.
That's true, because it never really got made properly.
It never really got made properly. All we know is, he fights a different bad guy with each level, and this is obviously the Raid Redemption and Dredd are more thought out pieces of, it's specifically a criminal organization that has control of this building. Specifically, the bad guy calls out to all of the criminals within the building and says, there's law enforcement in the building, I need you to kill them.
The mob boss at the very top says
at the very top. So, specific moments,
there's
happening.
There's a specific moment where they're taken in by one of the residents and given aid. There's a specific moment where they're ejected from the building and then jump back in. There's a specific moment where there's a showdown in a narcotics lab.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
There's a lot of similarities, and it's not just a coincidence. I mean, okay, so it's, everyone, I know a lot of people have jumped to the conclusion, well, you could say the same thing about Die Hard. I was like, no, Die Hard it's completely different. What, because it takes place in a building? You're right, it's exactly the same movie.
It's in a building, there are criminals.
Oh my goodness, So again, we're saying, shenanigans.
I'm sorry for pointing fingers.
Right.
Before all the facts are clear. I'm just saying something's going on.
Something is up, but, maybe some more information will come to light at a later date. But in the meantime, we do apologize for pointing specific fingers. And so we will just leave it at that.
And hey, if anyone does know if the Dredd 3D movie is based off a specific Dredd comic, please let me know, because I'm not too well versed in that world, to be honest with you. If it is, that kind of solves everything to me.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, just let us know. All right, well, now that we've got that unpleasant business out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Looper.
Looper
the Third?
No.
I'm sorry about that.
So Looper is the heartwarming tale of Looper Lewis.
Looper Lewis,
a jazz player from Kansas who has an unexpected reunion with his father, played by Bruce Willis.
Looper
exactly.
Senior. Looper Senior, professional ball player who was very, disappointed that his son didn't follow in his footsteps.
And the two of them start a romance with Emily Blunt unknowingly, independent of each other.
I know, that's so fantastic. That's all a lie, by the way.
That happens.
Total lie.
But you would go see that movie, I bet you.
Oh, of course, yeah. You would line up in droves to see it. No, Looper tells the story of Looper Lewis. No, I'm kidding. His
name is Joe.
His name is Joe. It takes place in the future, and basically 30 years from the point in the future that we start the movie from, time travel has been invented, and the criminal syndicates that, kind of run things, in order to assassinate somebody and make their body completely disappear without any trace, what they do is they send the victim 30 years back into the past where a looper is waiting for them. Looper then executes the criminal, or the intended victim rather, and then disposes of their body, and that way in the future there's absolutely no trace of the murder taking place.
They're technically getting rid of a body that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. It doesn't exist yet, so there's really, no threat on the looper's part, because even if there was evidence of the murder, it's like we don't have any information on this person because it doesn't exist. And meanwhile, the people in the future, as the body has just completely disappeared, we don't know where it went, and there's absolutely no trace of a crime whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're called loopers. This is where the story gets very interesting. I thought personally, they're called loopers as time slowly catches up with the looper, meaning as it approaches the 30 years into the future, a lot of these criminal syndicates will want to eliminate these loopers in order so there's not any ties, but between them.
The way I understood it was
Right.
like, we're not specifically going to kill you, but you are obligated to sign this contract wherein
Yes.
we retain the right to get rid of you if we have to.
We retain the right to get rid of you, and what we'll do is we'll send you back 30 years into the past, and you encounter your young self, who will then shoot you without any kind of hesitation. And we've strapped a shit ton of gold to your back,
Mhm.
and so basically they do the dirty deed, and basically their contract is up, and they can take the
You've
gold.
closed your loop.
You
is
have
what they
closed
say.
your loop, hence the term looper.
Mhm.
Your contract is up, and you can take that gold and go live in the lap of luxury for the next 30 years until your time is up. So you know that once you've closed the loop that, your time will be up in 30 years, but you have the opportunity to make it the, best possible 30 years, that one could have
Right.
with the money given. So I thought that was a very interesting premise.
And you don't know ever who you're killing because the person is tied up and there's a bag over their head.
yeah,
And
they got a sack over their
as
head.
a looper, you just wait at a specific spot at a specific moment with your blunderbuss. it's called,
Blunderbuss, yes.
Which is a great archaic term that they brought back.
Absolutely.
So with a very short-range shotgun, you wait in front of this tarp, and then the target just appears in front of you through time travel.
And then you just shoot it
Then
right
just
away.
shoot.
And then,
So most people don't know that they're closing their loop until they rip open the
jacket,
the
and
jacket,
then
and
there's
there's gold everywhere.
And then they see the gold and they're like, wow, I just closed my loop.
Mm.
So yeah, they almost don't have a say in whether or not they're closing the loop. It just kind
Right.
of happens. The gold is almost a bonus, really.
Now, that's, of course, not what happens to our central character, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joe is played by Joe in this, yeah.
Who's played by Joe, indeed. Now, what happens to him is that when his target appears in front of him, he's pretty much resolved to kill him until his target
Right.
appears in front of him, and there's no bag on his head, and he
Mhm.
looks into his eyes
And sees that it's his older
and
self.
sees that his older self, and his hands are his hands free at that point?
His hands are free at
Yeah.
that point, so he hesitates.
So Joe hesitates for half a second, and when he finally resolves himself to shoot his older self is cunning and turns around and he basically, I don't want to ruin everything for you. He gets free though.
He gets free, exactly. So using his Bruce Willis cunning,
Because he's Bruce Willis,
wiles.
basically. Yes.
Exactly.
And he's Action Man.
So, basically he has to chase his older self and close the loop, otherwise the criminals out there will eliminate both of them,
Mhm.
and then, young Joe won't get his 30 years of gold to enjoy, so...
And meanwhile, Bruce Willis, playing old Joe,
Right.
you find out later, he didn't just come back because they wanted him to die. They did want him, the criminal organization in the future did want him to die.
Exactly.
But he's come back of his own will and for a purpose.
For a specific purpose, which... basically, for the next 7 minutes or so, we're going to declare this spoiler time.
Yeah.
So you might want to jump ahead until about 20 minutes into this.
Yeah.
Move the cursor down to 20 minutes, and by that point, we should be finished talking with the spoilers. We're going to give ourselves
We'll make
about...
sure. We'll make sure,
Yeah,
everybody.
we promise you. So
spoilers starting now.
Okay. So the reason that Bruce Willis comes back is there is a criminal mastermind in the future called the Rainmaker.
Mhm.
I think it's a pretty cool name for a criminal mastermind. And he is specifically closing loops. In fact, that's one of the first things that he does when he comes to power is he just starts closing loops left and right. So when it comes time for Bruce Willis to be taken care of through an accident, his wife, who was a woman that he met, a couple of years before, this whole incident happened, who basically picks him up out of the gutter and
Right,
saves him.
because he's just become a hitman and a junkie.
Yeah.
And his life is just trash.
His life is shit, and he met this woman in Asia. I think it's where was it, Hong Kong or?
He's in Shanghai.
Yeah, he's in Shanghai. Yeah, and meets this woman who basically picks him up out of the gutter, gets him off drugs. He cleans his life up, and he lives a wonderful couple of years with this woman, happily married, and then...
Then the criminals come to take him away to close his loop, and in the process they shoot her.
They shoot her, and she dies, so that's part of the reason that he has gone back is... he had come across some information about the Rainmaker, where the Rainmaker was born, like the name of the hospital and the time of the birth.
He's just some set coordinates that lead him to 3 children, and he goes full on King Herod.
Yes.
In terms of like, well, one of these 3 kids is the Rainmaker. I don't know which one. I better just kill them all.
Exactly.
And it's funny because when I was watching the trailer to this movie, I was like, oh, it's a time travel movie, and you know, it looks cool, actiony, and you know, Bruce Willis is gonna go back in time, and I'm sure he'll impart some wisdom on Joseph Gordon-Levitt and make everything turn out okay for his younger self.
Yeah.
And it's not that at all.
No.
It kind of starts to feel like that at first because he sits Joseph Gordon-Levitt down and is like, all right, listen, this is the deal. We're going to save this woman's life. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt says the wisest thing in the movie. He's like, oh, show me her photo. He's like, what? Show me her photo. I won't marry her. Then she'll be safe. He's like, no, we don't have to give her up. And he just goes on this like lovesick, grief-stricken rampage of murder. It's pretty great.
No, yeah, I thought the movie was really going to be about the conflict that Joseph Gordon-Levitt has of like, oh, but do I want to kill my older self and blah, blah, blah.
That too.
But no, it's not that at all. No,
he's totally trying to kill her.
He is totally committed to killing his older self. He's like, look, old man, you had your chance. You had your time. This is my time now. So I think that took both of us off guard, which, again, was very nice. You know, it was, you know, it's good to be, you know, tossed, you know, a curveball every once in a while.
And it gave the story an overall noirish quality that Rian Johnson's really good at.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Brick, I think, in a moment.
Yeah,
let's continue spoiler time just so we can get that.
The biggest problem I think you had with not a problem per se.
No,
but
I just needed to do some mental gymnastics at the end because this is the thing. So just to complete the synopsis, basically, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character ends up finding the Rainmaker, who's like 10 years old at the time, and is a little boy with amazing psychic powers, which becomes the explanation for how he took over the criminal empire so easily and just on his own.
Exactly.
And he forms a relationship very much like the relationship that Bruce Willis had with his wife, the older Joe's relationship, where the Rainmaker's mother, played by Emily Blunt, just kind of cleans him up and gets him back on his feet and gives him something to care about in his like worthless life. And so at the end of the movie, it comes down to Bruce Willis like chasing them down. And he's going to shoot Emily Blunt in an attempt to get the Rainmaker. And Joe just sees it all like play out in his head.
Exactly. The Rainmaker witnesses the death of his mother and then is just embittered towards loopers and pretty much all of society. Just wants to kill. So grows up in, you know, just in you're right. He sees that unfolding in front of himself. So he does the only thing that he can,
which is to kill himself.
Which
eliminates old Joe, which eliminates the threat to the Rainmaker.
And so none of this will ever happen.
None of this will happen.
The Rainmaker will grow up to be a well-adjusted, I don't know, like pharmacist, but he won't take over society. So here's the thing with that.
All right, so
you got to really stop and think about it.
All right, bear with me here. So basically, in order for there needs to be 3 timelines at play here. Because there's the timeline we know. Okay, there's the first timeline where Joe closes his loop and goes on to become Bruce Willis and becomes a criminal and learns about the Rainmaker. So he goes back in time to timeline B. But where we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt and meeting Emily Blunt and the Rainmaker and all the events basically of the movie of Looper. But there needs to be a timeline
where a looper, whether it be old Joe or another looper, that did succeed in either killing Emily Blunt or doing something to make this little kid grow up to be a huge criminal mastermind.
Because he wouldn't be the Rainmaker in order to he wouldn't be there to close Bruce Willis's loop. And become this evil criminal mastermind, unless there was, a first timeline before timeline A even. We'll call it timeline Z.
Wow.
There needs to be that, though.
Let's go to the chart.
You do need a chart. There's 3 timelines, though, because there needs to be one where the Rainmaker is made so that he can antagonize Bruce Willis and make him go back.
Basically, since we only have a few more seconds left, this is it's the Terminator conundrum.
It's the Kyle Reese conundrum.
It's the Kyle Reese conundrum of John Cotter sends Kyle Reese back in time to protect Sarah Connor. Kyle Reese then impregnates Sarah Connor with the seed of John Connor, who then grows up to lead the resistance, and then sends back... but how...
How did he send him back?
Exactly. I mean, so it's basically
what we're dealing with, everybody, is a Pym paradox.
Yes, indeed. It's indeed. Well, again, if time is in fact not linear, it makes perfect sense. But we don't know how to view time in a non-linear fashion since we've been doing that most of our lives. So it's a little confusion, but it's certainly not a deal breaker.
No, it's still great. I just had to do some mental gymnastics coming back from the theater.
No, exactly.
And we are out of time for the spoilers. Spoilers have ended.
Spoilers have ended.
Spoilers
You have reached the safe point. You are back in the Shire.
Back in the Shire. So right now we got to be careful not to talk about anything, but we still should talk about Looper a little bit.
Well, we should say that we liked it. I very much loved this movie.
I really enjoyed it. It's a great little time travel film noir story.
This is the science fiction movie for our generation. This is really one of the few original movies that have come along that is not based on a comic or a novel or a ripoff of something else. This is an original work. And not only is it an original work, but it's a really good original work too. So I was, very interested when I first heard about the premise, and then it just delivered, in a way that I didn't think was possible. So this was a very fantastic movie.
If I had to compare it to anything, I think it would be Blade Runner, only because they are both have that specific and very good synthesis of sci-fi and film noir.
Yeah, it's a very good combination, and as you were mentioning before, Bryan Johnson is very good at the film noir thing. He did a movie a couple of years back. I think it was his first feature film. It's called Brick.
Brick is great. But
It's
Brick
fantastic.
is a movie where when I heard the premise, I was like, that sounds so stupid.
The premise sounds very, very silly. It's a film noir murder mystery
detective story
that takes place in high school.
In a high school.
In high school with high school kids. That sounds
like, oh, that's adorable.
That sounds awful. That sounds like a Disney Channel movie or something like that.
Oh, gumshoe team.
Yes, Zac Efron. In Brick. No. Oh my God, it works. I cannot even begin to tell you how much that works. It is a fantastic movie.
Really good. Really, just like the seedy, creepy vibe that's actually there in pretty much, I would say, like, it's got to be almost everybody's high school life. There was like some amount of like criminal activity or drug activity or like those kids that you didn't talk about or hang out with, and it deals with them really. It's like
it does deal with them, but what the movie realizes is, from a perspective of somebody not in high school, that might seem kind of silly and trivial and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But when you were in high school,
when you're in the drama,
then it's very real. Mm-hmm. It's very important. So the movie kind of takes on that tone and realizes the seriousness of it. It's just got the flavor and the tone of a nice 30s, film noir movie, again, but with young people, Mr. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I think the role that really turned his career around.
I would say so. That's when I started taking him seriously. It was like, oh, look, it's that kid from Third Rock from the Sun.
Third Rock from the Sun is doing a little crime movie, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, he can act. I mean, he could act before, but this was just proof positive. Mm-hmm. And just everybody involved in that movie was fantastic. So, and it's really funny because I was looking up some reviews for the movie, and it's generally well liked by a lot of critics, but there were some that kind of panned the movie, and it was really amusing reading the reviews because they were almost angry at the idea that this like you read the reviews, it's like, okay, I see what you're trying to do, and how dare you try to, it was like they were angry that he succeeded, like almost like, why didn't I think of that, kind of vibe coming from the reviews is, damn it, why didn't I think of that? This upstart filmmaker comes out of nowhere and just changes around the entire convention of filmmaking. How dare he? It was really funny reading those reviews. You should check out some of them if you got a chance. But check out Brick.
Yeah, more importantly, check out the movie. It's got some great people in it. The girl that played Claire in Lost. She plays kind of his love interest initially. And this guy Noah, I think his name is Noah Seeger.
Noah Seeger.
He's the guy. He's also in Looper, by the way. He plays Kid Blue in Looper.
That was that movie we saw last week. It was about the Crimean War, I think. No.
Yeah, the actor that plays Kid Blue in Looper, he also plays a very similar role in Brick.
Right,
This guy that he's kind of an antagonist to our.
He's kind of an antagonist, but he's so much of a screw up though
He
that
kind of
it's
just.
you kind of pity him a little
Yeah.
bit. It's just like, oh, you should really just
This
stop.
is not going to turn out well for you,
Yeah,
buddy.
just stop walking and talking, man. Just go sit in a corner. You'll be safe there. It's fine.
Mhm.
So yeah, a lot of great performers in Brick, and so that was Ryan Johnson's first feature film, and
Which he's kind of on a Tarantino schedule. He doesn't
I was gonna
make
say,
movies too often.
Yeah, no, this is. I mean, Looper is really only his third big one. He's done some television work I've researched.
And some music videos, I think.
Some music videos. I know he's directed a couple episodes of Breaking Bad. So
okay.
for some of you Breaking Bad fans
That's cool.
out there, that should be
didn't know
incentive enough. I didn't know that either until I did a little research on the gentleman. But yeah, only 3 features.
The middle child is called it's called The Brothers Bloom.
Right.
That's his second movie. And it was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
I don't think it quite gets up to the level of success that Brick or Looper do.
No, but it's a very well made film.
It's about con men.
Yeah, it's
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo,
and
yeah. Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody and oh boy, I should know this Japanese girl's name. She's from Babel. This is the day of me not knowing anyone's name ever.
That's okay. What's in the name?
And Rachel Weisz is in it.
Yes, Rachel Weisz.
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz. What
are you doing?
It sounds like Edelweiss. Isn't there a German song called like Edelweiss?
Greg's off his meds, everyone.
Shut up! Just forget I said anything. And again, you're lucky I'm too lazy to edit. Anywho, it's a very good movie. It's not as spectacular as Brick or Looper. It certainly doesn't, knock you through a wall like those two movies do. But it's
still a well-made film.
It's very confident,
very pretty.
Yeah, very very well shot. The acting is excellent, very funny. So
Sense of
it's
adventure.
yeah, it's worth checking out definitely. But so yeah, Ryan Johnson, he's sort of the new name in the film world, and I look forward to seeing more stuff from him because
Absolutely.
he's fantastic. So yeah, Brick, Brothers Bloom, and Looper.
Most relevant Looper.
Yeah, most relevant Looper, though, since it is actually out in theaters. But you can find Brick on Netflix Instant Watch, I believe. Not quite sure about the Brothers Bloom, but I know you can probably get it on DVD.
And Ryan Johnson's brother, interestingly enough, he does all the soundtrack work for him. So
really,
yeah, all the score for Looper and all the score for Brick. I'm not certain about Brothers Bloom, but I would wager that one too.
Yeah.
Most of the soundtrack is provided by his brother.
Oh, that's cool. Keep it in the family.
Yeah.
Nice. So I think we'll conclude our little discussion about Looper, and let's move on to some other movies that are looming on the horizon.
Attractions.
That we might be interested in. We both saw, when we went to see Looper, we saw a trailer for one called
Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much.
This is the new one by it's by the. I was gonna say the Wachowski brothers, but I guess it's the Wachowski brother and sister now.
Yeah,
one of them is transgender.
Yeah, Larry. Basically, he is now Lana Wachowski. So I'm sorry, it's she in proper terminology. So yeah, it's Lana Wachowski and her brother. Slappy back, Boopadoo.
Wachowskis.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, the Wachowskis have made a film that doesn't involve ninja assassins.
No, it doesn't involve ninja assassins or race cars that I could see in the trailer. It's interesting looking movie. It looks beautiful.
The novelist. I just read another novel by this guy called The Thousand Autumns of Jacob Disoway. He's the same novelist. His name is David.
I'm never going to rely on you for...
His first name is David. Anyway.
May you remember your child's name at least when you finally name the child. Hey, David. How many authors out there can there be named David?
Anyway, it was a very good book. And I've heard some very good things about Cloud Atlas, which I think is the one that kind of made him.
Keep talking. I'm getting my phone. I'm looking up this author's name.
Yeah, that's we've reached a low on that. I have.
Continue.
So, and the film seems to be about just how people can be connected through the ages, through their souls.
Right.
The central characters are played by Halle Berry and Tom Hanks, but
Seemingly, though, aside from a piece of music that they have seemed to have heard,
which is called Cloud Atlas.
which is called Cloud Atlas, which seems to pass through time, you know.
And it's like they'll hear it for the first time and they'll be like, I know this song from somewhere at some time, and then it'll cut to them either in the far future or in the far past. But it's the two characters are not always played by Tom Hanks or Halle Berry.
No, then that's the very interesting thing is they could look completely different, but it's still the same.
And I think that they don't always have the same relationship either. It's more just about, I'm not sure about that. I think it's just more about the fact that they are connected by fate and by this piece of music.
David Mitchell.
It is Mitchell.
Yes.
Oh,
okay. Mitchell. Mitchell.
Doesn't have to be like this, Mitchell.
I love you. Heart's pounding.
Well, anyway.
Sorry.
So
MST
Cloud Atlas
reference.
looks really cool.
Yeah. Visually, it looks stunning. The idea of love throughout the ages. It's not a new idea, but it could be interesting. We'll
and just
see
the
how
scope of it, just how sometimes it's in the far-flung, very Matrixy resembling future,
or just in contemporary present, or
like on an island somewhere that could be at any time. It's just remote and removed, and they're children, I think, in that one. You know,
Right.
it's just how people are connected.
So it could be very interesting. Again, visually stunning. We'll see if the Wachowskis can't hold the reins this time and keep it together.
My theory on them is that if they have good source material to work with, then they do a pretty decent job. I think some V for Vendetta fans would disagree with me, although I liked V.
Yeah, I liked V well enough.
I liked V.
Then how do you explain Speed Racer, my friend?
I didn't see Speed Racer.
They had brilliant source material. No, I'm kidding. I don't know about the Speed Racer on I was just kidding. I hated that movie. No, I would. Yeah, if they've got some good source material, hopefully it'll turn out a little bit better. Was Bound based on anything?
They did Bound?
Yeah, that was them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They basically did Bound. That was their way to prove to Hollywood that they could A, handle a feature film, and B, they could put butts in seats. So they kind of went the cheap route, and they did a lesbian love story. With Gina Gershon and Jennifer. Well, it's not the cheap route per se, but how are we going to get a bunch of guys into theaters? Well, let's get Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly whispering into each other's ears. Gold. So yeah, they did bad. I was going to ask you if you recall if it was based on any kind of previous source material, but
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to research that.
But anyway, Cloud Atlas, unfortunately, doesn't have Gina Gershon or Jennifer Tilly whispering into each other's ears, but it does look like a visually stunning movie regardless. So I'm interested. Yeah, my interest is definitely peaked. We'll see how that goes.
Indeed.
What else do we got there on the horizon that's coming out?
So we have Killing Them Softly looks good,
Oh,
I think.
yeah, the new Brad Pitt vehicle.
Yeah.
Pretty intense.
When I first saw him come on the screen, it's like, I'm a little sick of you for some reason, Brad Pitt.
But he's not eating all the time in this one. He doesn't have the goofy smile, and
it just looks like a good, solid crime movie.
Yeah, no.
It's got some good, solid crime movie people in it.
Richard Jenkins is...
Richard Jenkins. I wouldn't...
Well, he's not a crime person per se, but
he's a good, solid actor.
He's a good, solid actor.
And he seems to play a pretty big part. I really loved him in Cabin in the Woods. So
I've yet to see that.
We'll see how he does. And also, James Gandolfini is going to be in it, and Ray Liotta they're both going to be in it.
Ray Liotta, has he ever been in a crime movie?
I don't know. I know he was in
Uwe Boll's
No Man's Land.
Oh yeah, No Man's Land with Ernie Hudson, and
he was a future criminal in that.
Yeah, with Ernie Hudson and the villain from Lethal Weapon 3, playing the villain in this. He was in that Uwe Boll film. What was it?
I'm a dark sorcerer, Karen.
I'm a dark sorcerer from Jersey City.
If you haven't seen a movie called In the Name of the King,
a Dungeon Siege Tale? Yeah.
I think that's the name of it. In the Name of the King.
Yeah, In the Name of the King.
It's Uwe Boll made us a fantasy story.
Oh god, with Jason Statham and of all people,
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds is the wise king. Who basically just
and the greatest thing is that rumbles. It's got a really good cast and no one gives a shit. Everyone is so not committed to this movie except for Matthew Lillard. God bless him.
Absolutely, he puts his heart and soul into the role.
Who plays like this treacherous princeling that wants to overthrow the throne.
Oh goodness. So for the role of the dark evil sorcerer that's at the heart of Ray Liotta, the guy from Jersey City.
Which it's just if you need like a Christopher Lee or somebody with like a dark, commanding presence, you know? You
Not
don't.
the guy from Goodfellas that, you know, shook his wife and was like, what did you do?
What did you do that for, Karen? What did you do that? That just felt like every line of his was like, I'm going to use my dark necromancy to conjure some evil spirits.
I have a connection with the underworld, Karen. Wow.
Take me to jail.
Take me to
jail.
Wizard. Take me to Azkaban.
Oh, we have fun.
Oh, we do have fun.
So anyway,
What were we talking about?
killing them
Killing them softly, yeah.
It's about some gangsters that knock over. Well, it's about some two-bit criminals that knock over a prominent gangster card game.
Right.
And Brad Pitt is sent in as kind of the cleanup man to find out who they are,
Uh-huh.
and then get the money back and basically eliminate them in some way.
Right.
Although he seems to have his own little agenda going on.
Seems to have his
too.
own little agenda, his own thoughts on the idea,
Yeah.
but it looks very solid. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, very intense.
I like a good crime story.
Exactly. So that is definitely on the horizon. So
Mhm.
we're looking forward to that. Some really big news in the film world is they just released the first still picture from the latest Die Hard movie that's in production, which is A Good Day to Die Hard. And no, this picture is sort of a revelation because it's a picture of John McClane and he's holding a machine gun.
Oh.
So I think there's gonna be gunfire in this movie. I don't know. I wasn't sure if they were gonna go that route again. But
Now, is this one? I pray to God this one's getting the PG-13 rating as well.
oh yeah, the Die Hard movie,
Because a Die Hard movie's not a Die Hard movie unless it's rated PG-13.
PG-13.
And I can take my 11-year-old.
Exactly,
needs to see it. I don't have
and say
an
here the
11-year-old.
iconic line, yippee ki mother freaker,
Yeah.
Which is what everybody knows that those movies for. No, there's no word yet on the MPAA rating, at least that I've heard of. But it is the movie is taking place in Moscow, where John McClane is, I guess, trying to reconnect with his estranged son Jack. And then things go wrong. And
Is Jack being played by Shia LaBeouf? And are they going to call him Mutt?
leave the room right now. Get out of here. I don't want to talk to you anymore. This podcast is over. No, I'm kidding. No, God, no. I hope not. No, I don't think that's...
And are they going to not subtly hint about Shia LaBeouf taking over that franchise as well?
Why do you want to hurt me? Those are just really mean things to say,
I know, I'm sorry.
You need to
I
be
apologize.
a bit
man.
more polite when it comes to talking to me, bringing up Shia LaBeouf and
Yeah.
taking over franchise. He came this close. You can't see it because this is a podcast, but I'm holding my thumb and forefinger very close together. He came this close to taking over the Indiana Jones franchise, but thank God he took the hat away from him before he could put it on.
Saved Shia LaBeouf's worthless life by taking that away from him.
Exactly. He did you a favor. The old man did you a favor. Speaking of old men, we saw a trailer for the new Schwarzenegger
Oh
movie.
boy. What is that one called?
You keep talking to them
So
in
anyway,
stall while I look up the title.
Schwarzenegger has a new movie coming out.
Where he plays a sheriff
He
in a
plays a
small town, and apparently a drug cartel are passing through.
And he's the only chance to stop him, and one of his old covert ops or army or something buddies calls him and is like, trouble's coming your way, sheriff.
I guess he's like, but I am just a small town sheriff. I don't know how to, effectively.
I come from simple American values.
And Johnny Knoxville's in
And Johnny
it, so...
Knoxville plays his ridiculous sidekick. The trailer is full of jokes about him being too old to do this, which
including
aren't
one line
funny
where he
because-
just basically says, "I'm old."
yeah, it's like we know, buddy, we know. Just
It's called The Last Stand, by the way.
I knew it was something not.
Where
memorable.
Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a character named Ray Owens. My name is Ray Owens.
So look forward to being underwhelmed by
From
that.
Idaho. No, seriously, yeah. At one point, he just looks at a guy and goes, "I'm old."
It's not even like Expendables fun.
No.
Because,
It just looks a little sad.
yeah, it just looks sad. At this
It's like,
point.
you know what? We know he's old. Stop calling attention to it, okay? It's not funny. It was kind of funny in the Lethal Weapon movies because they still looked like they could effectively do well at their jobs,
Right.
at least in the third one. And so it was kind of funny to call attention to it then, But when they are, in fact, old, and the joke's no longer funny anymore. It's
And
just
I get it. He's trying to, he's fallen on some hard times, and he probably needs the paycheck. But-
right, exactly. I'm not gonna, not gonna hold it against him. So, yes, The Last Stand, that's coming out. See it. Don't see
Less
it.
Miserables is coming out soon.
Oh, Les Miserables!
Yeah.
I can't wait for Les Miserables.
Which some people erroneously pronounce as Les Miserables.
Les Miserables?
Les Miserables is coming out soon.
Les Miserables, yeah.
Broadway Wolverine is going to be in it.
Broadway Wolverine is going to be in it, and Mr.
And Catwoman's in it.
Catwoman is in it, and she gets a really drastic haircut, so
and,
that looks kind of fun.
And
Russell Crowe is
yes,
in it as
yes.
Mr. Javert.
Yep.
It should be very interesting because we know he's had some musical experience in the past with a band, I think called like 60 Odd Foot Grunts or something like that.
I don't know. That's news to me.
Yeah, he
Cool.
used to be a singer in a band before his Hollywood career exploded. So he does have some background in singing. We just, I personally don't know if he's any good, but I can only imagine they cast him because they thought he could do well. And he looks great in the role. Like he looks like he's really gonna, take it over and make it his own.
No, but in seriousness, like the movie looks pretty good.
Yeah,
it's got a great cast. Jackman, as you said, Russell Crowe looks like he's gonna be pretty badass Javert.
Yep, Anne Hathaway, Amanda Seyfried. So yeah, we got some good people
And
lined up.
they had a little feature, the 10 or whatever they call it before they actually show you the previews of the movie.
Right.
About Les Miserables and just how it was a little unique compared to some of the other movie musicals, in that they were actually shooting and singing at the same time, whereas normally actors sing first, and then when they actually act, when they actually shoot, they're singing to playback.
Yeah, exactly. So every take that they're doing is the actor or actress singing live,
Mhm.
and it's very rare for a musical, for at least an entire musical, to be done like that. I think there have been other musicals in the past that have maybe done that a little bit in the movie, but this movie is purporting that this is how the entire film has been shot, is just every take is them singing live, which, according to the actors, allows for a bit more flexibility in the actual performances because, when you record the song, you basically have to make all of your acting choices very early on, whereas, when you're kind of doing it in real time, you can kind of use your instincts and, improvise a little bit. So it should be interesting.
And as as Mr. Jackman illustrates in that feature, if you've seen it, basically, he gets to make choices on the spot, and he doesn't have to sing it perfectly. He can make the choice to sound broken, or he can use his emotions like an actor should.
Exactly,
so it's just better that way.
So yeah, it should be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what this director can do. The director of this feature film, he directed a movie called The King's Speech, which won Best Picture last year, which is a fine film. I don't know if I agree that it deserved to win Best Picture. I'm sorry, not last year, the year before last year.
yeah.
My apologies. The King's Speech is a fine film with some phenomenal performances and an absolutely intriguing and fantastic story. As far as like the look of the film, though, it's a very boring looking film because it's basically just people standing in doorways and then walking into rooms. That's all the movie is somebody standing in a doorway or people walking into a room or perhaps down a hallway. So not very visually striking. So I'm interested to see him try his hand at something a bit larger, with Les Mis, which of course is a sweeping musical, and he better damn
Pretty
well
epic
move
and-
the camera and have people move around. Otherwise, he's gonna have a lot of pissed off people. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he has coming up.
Right on.
All right. Did we have anything else to talk about?
I mean, just as long as we're talking about sequels to franchises.
Sure.
They're making another Dumb and Dumber movie. Did you know this?
Yeah.
It's Dumb and Dumber 2, but the 2 is T-O.
Yep. You see what they did there, right?
I do see what
Only
they
a
did there.
dumb person would spell it T-O.
Oh, whatever. It's Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels back in the role.
So they did get both of them back, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I thought I read somewhere early on that one of them dropped out. Not for certain. I've read other articles, much like you, that have said that they're both in it.
I'm pretty sure they're both in it.
Okay.
If they're not both in it, then yeah, that would be lame.
Exactly. What are they going to do? Just have what Jeff Daniels, talking into a mirror. I don't know. It just
Yeah.
wouldn't be very interesting, and nor would we really want to see somebody else try and fill that role. It's,
No, of
that's
course
Jim
not.
Carrey's
I mean,
role.
that's where the other sequels to this movie failed, where they were like, oh, we'll show them when they're younger, and it's like, well, we don't really care
We don't
about.
give a crap about.
It was the actors that made those roles.
Exactly. It was Jeff
memorable.
Daniels and Jim Carrey that made them memorable. It wasn't the idea of the character.
Yeah.
It was the actual acting and performances seen on screen. So, yeah, okay, so they're doing that.
So that's happening.
Alright, well,
What
I
else?
mean-
We got Skyfall. That's another
Oh!
franchise sequel coming up. We got Daniel Craig back as Bond.
Daniel Craig back as Bond, and this is the first Bond movie, at least, in the hands of Daniel Craig that. Well, I mean, that's unfair. I was going to say it's the first Bond movie to come out that actually looks like a Bond film this time. That's unfair to say. Casino Royale did feel like a Bond movie at times. You certainly had the whole gambling and the sitting down at the table and the tuxedo aspect and such. And
It's understandable that it felt not quite like a Bond movie because it was a movie about him becoming Bond, pretty much.
it was sort
He
of.
made his first kill. And
Yeah, so it was meant to feel a little different, but the sequel, Quantum of Solace, which I haven't seen since it came out in theaters, I mean, it was a fine action movie, but it didn't feel like a Bond film, because it was basically, they just took the idea from License to Kill, where Bond is on the run and he's not
Out for
sanctioned and
vengeance.
he's out for vengeance and stuff like that, and it stopped feeling like a James Bond film after a while. It was just an angry man wants to shoot people. It's Bond can get serious at times. Of course it can get serious, but it is supposed to still be kind of fun, and it's supposed to. People complain that the Pierce Brosnan movies went a little too far with the gadgets, and you know what? They might have, but that doesn't mean you should just outright lose some of the silliness that the Bond movies had. That's what kind of made them fun,
Yeah, and I've said this before, and it's really. I feel like the newer Bond movies with Daniel Craig trying a little too hard to be Jason Bourne,
Yeah.
which is somewhat understandable too, though, because the Bourne movies really kind of changed the game as far as spy movies go. They showed that you can. People will want to see this if you do it in a somewhat more realistic.
Right.
Not gadget oriented and with fight scenes that are not like people doing flip kicks and are more just someone's put their hand on me and I'll drop 3 people in 2 seconds.
Right.
That's
And there
much
is
more practical combat oriented.
exactly, and that's all well and good. That's fantastic for that series. There's plenty of room for the nitty gritty in this cinematic landscape of ours. But James Bond is kind of his own thing, though, and we don't necessarily need to see him do that all the time. I'm really excited that in this upcoming Bond film that they've introduced the character of Q.
With Q back, yeah.
Even if it is only just for him to give him the Walther PPK, which I can't believe we're on the 3rd movie and he's now just getting that,
Yeah.
his main gun. But, it looks like they've introduced, more of an epic scope to this film, because you've got the villain played by Javier Bardem, whom they're really building up into this as to being, an absolute huge threat to Bond and MI6, and just, almost to, Blofeld, heights of, of fear and intimidation.
Which, as you said, he kind of needs a strong villain.
He absolutely does need a strong villain. He had a fine one in Casino Royale. The Chief was
The Sheik was cool.
was fine. I honestly don't remember the villain in Quantum of Solace. I don't even know if it was one particular villain. I know there was a hotel in the desert. That's all I can. That's all I can really remember about Quantum of Solace. There was a hotel in the desert, and a guy ends up drinking oil at the end of the movie.
Oh.
That was Quantum of Solace. That's about all I can remember. But no, it really looks like they're giving us a big villain, exotic locales, huge epic, action scenes, chases, not just concentrating on the nitty gritty, but actually looking very cinematic, and adding scope. So I'm actually very excited about
And
this.
you can make the argument, Bond fans, that that the Daniel Craig Bond has been a closer interpretation to the original intention behind the Ian Fleming novels. I think that's mostly true.
Mm-hmm.
But
At the
Bond
same time,
movies
were
were basically forged by Sean Connery's
Yes.
films, and that's why I really liked the Pierce Brosnan era personally, because that's, to me, it felt like the closest between it felt like the closest to that era again.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I would agree with
Like
that.
a dark-haired suave Bond back and have just enough gadgets. He went a little gadget overboard.
By the last Brosnan film, yeah.
And to be able to just sit back and enjoy some completely bizarre and improbable almost impossible things. Like, I think in the last movie, like, there's a Korean guy that turns himself
Caucasian.
Caucasian.
Yeah. And then
Um,
he's got like diamonds embedded in his face or something. Or was that at the beginning of the movie? I don't know. It was very weird.
Yeah.
It was very weird. And there was some sort of like parachute scene at a waterfall. I don't know. It did get very.
It got a little ridiculous, but Bond's allowed to get a little ridiculous.
He's allowed to get a little ridiculous. That's sort of the fun of those movies. So again, Skyfall, it looks like a fine return to form after a little bit of a stumble with Quantum of Solace.
But hopefully we'll inject some fun back into
Exactly,
Bond.
which it looks like they're trying to do. You know, it's being directed by Sam Mendes, who is the gentleman that directed American Beauty and Revolutionary Road and Jarhead. So he's a,
those are all fun movies.
I'm just saying the man knows how to make a very compelling film. You know. So I would trust him, and he seems like he's a Bond fan too. So that's what you need is you need a fanboy in the director's chair to really
as
bring...
Joss Whedon and J.J. Abrams have proven,
Yes.
that can work.
Exactly,
very well.
that can work very, very well. So I'm very excited about it. Do we have another one to talk about, or?
I think we're good. We have. I mean, there's just to say like October's full of movies that I want to see.
Right.
I think a lot of them we've talked about already.
Okay.
Such as Seven Psychopaths.
Exactly.
Super excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I meant to see before today. I've been meaning to see that for the past couple days. If you don't know, this is based off of a novel, a young adult novel that I read
When you were a young adult.
when I was a young adult. Just about like an outsider, a wallflower type of kid, and his little journey through high school and learning to relate to people. And the girl that's like the object of his affections is played by Emma Watson.
Hermione.
Played by Hermione. It'll be cool to see her play a role that's not Hermione. And
Yes, absolutely.
To step into the grown-up limelight a little bit.
Hopefully there is life after Potter for her.
Yeah, I think that there will be.
Good.
She's a hot little number.
That's Hermione you're talking about. My God, sir.
Oh, whatever.
All right.
And Insidious comes out very soon.
Yep, Insidious, the new horror film featuring Ethan Hawke, which normally when I'm trying to say go see a movie, I wouldn't put Ethan Hawke's name out there first. But the movie, nothing against Mr. Ethan Hawke. Before Sunrise, Before Sunset are the two greatest romantic movies you'll ever see. But it's a very scary looking film. We talked about it in one of our earlier episodes. The premise is very intriguing about the demon that goes after the children's souls, and some very interesting visuals. So looking forward to that. And we are, in one of our upcoming episodes, we are going to have a completely Halloween-based episode where we're going to talk about scary films. Absolutely. Scary films that we've loved in the past, scary movies that we've recently seen and that are coming out. So,
which I've been preparing. I've been watching scary movies since the beginning of September. My queue is full of them right now, and we'll have a lot of material to go.
Because Nicky Boom Boom is a Halloween baby,
That's
so
true.
This
my,
is
my big 3-0 coming up at the end of this month.
Yep. So this is his month to shine. Well, groovy. Well, I think that concludes this episode of Filmtopiacast 3000. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and next episode will be out next week, hence the weekly podcast theme that we've got going. So, again, I am your host, Greg McIver, and this is
Nicky Boom Boom.
And thank you again for joining us. We'll see you soon.